meeting agenda is for November 23rd, 2021. We have no delegations. We have one report, and it's the Director Services Area Report, Mr. Chris Manuel.
Okay, thank you very much. So in community social development, the province of Alberta announced last week that they are going to fund shelters to operate 24/7 with support through the winter months, November 1st through to March 31st, 2020. So that will see both Wapiti House, the St. Lawrence Center, and Oasis receive additional funding. Additionally, they announced that COVID isolation site funding for those requiring isolation units from the vulnerable sectors, as well as the women's shelters, will receive funding during that same period of time. The International Day of Persons with Disabilities planning continues in respect to a virtual event to be held December 10th of 2021. The Accessibility Advisory Committee administers the Inclusive Community Award, and a deadline to nominate an individual or business is December 1st. In enforcement services, they report that they continue to have a strong presence at the Community Knowledge Campus and along 68th Avenue in response to some community concerns that were received, particularly in the evening hours. A great deal of presence has been provided down there, and they continue to monitor the situation and are seeing a marked improvement. Additionally, enforcement is also working with property owners and businesses to secure permission to act as a property agent. You may go around and you might see enforcement services logos or RCMP logos on businesses with the word agent on it. What that does is it allows the RCMP or enforcement services to represent that business on matters such as trespass. So instead of having an employee stand there, identify to a shoplifter or a person that's unruly, causing a disturbance, instead of putting an employee in the position to make that call, the business has authorized the peace officers or police officers to do that on their behalf. It's a pretty effective program that we've adopted from the city of Edmonton. As well, snow route parking bans. On November 16th, a parking ban was declared on snow routes in the city. So a reminder, if you live along one of those routes with all the little seasonal parking ban signs posted, when a snow ban is in effect, your vehicle has to be removed from the road until snow removal has occurred and the windrow has been collected. So we have officers trying to get into those areas ahead of transportation crews to make sure that the streets can be cleared efficiently. The fire department is prepared for winter operations and has winterized anything that could freeze within their equipment, as well as is conducting their annual checks and inspections. And the RCMP, a number of operational items here, but one incident of note is the RCMP reported that on November 3rd, between 12 a.m. and 12:20 a.m. in the community of Pinnacle, it appears as though a white truck equipped with red and blue lights allegedly impersonated a peace officer and attempted to pull over another vehicle. The truck stayed for several minutes without any occupants exiting before leaving the area. The suspect vehicle was described as a white Chevy truck around a 2010 model with a small lift kit, bright LED headlights, dark tinted windows, and black detailing above the wheels. It's unknown how many occupants were in the vehicle. Incidents like this are obviously concerning to both the RCMP and the public. So anybody that has any information pertaining to this incident, ask to please contact the detachment. The RCMP were successful due to the public's support in resolving a similar incident that occurred on Halloween on the east part of town. And that's basically the highlight for the week.
All right, thank you very much. Was there any questions from committee or any council members? Go ahead, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair O'Toole. Director Manuel, just a little bit more detail on the exterior aesthetics of the community care campus? When are we going to see a more permanent looking fence? When are we going to see sort of the improvements that were originally discussed on the facade, etc.?
Yeah, certainly. So in regard to the wrought iron commercial style fence on the east side of the building, that fence is on order. It actually was supposed to be installed this week, but it's faced delays due to some of the supply chain issues related to the weather events and whatnot. So I think right now it's presently been rescheduled for the second week of December. The overall facade improvements, such as the cladding on the building and painting and those sorts of things, are going to be warmer weather activities that will occur in the spring itself. So when it comes to the actual, replacement of metal sheeting and stuff like that on the building, that will be weather dependent come the warm weather. In the meantime, all the interior work is underway. The primary focus was the life safety system, such as the sprinkler installations, fire alarm improvements, those sorts of things.
Go ahead, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chairman O'Toole, and thanks for the service update, Director Manuel. Just a question in regards to the province 100% funding our shelter spaces 24/7. That's a great promise, especially for those who will need it in the winter months. Does that funding cover, on the off chance that we may have to socially distance our shelters as well and create other spaces? Is there extra funding in there to take care of that as well?
Thank you for the question through the chair. The funding actually is supporting the social distancing. So ordinarily they do not fund 3 shelters. So the funding that's in place right now is for the overflow capacity that has 3. Additionally, if there is a COVID outbreak or a COVID positive person, or even frankly a symptomatic person that could be likely contagious to others, they have funding in place for the isolation site.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Good to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay. One more call. I don't see anybody sticking their hands up. I did not inform you on who the committee is. Mayor Clayton is a voting member. Chris Thiessen is a voting member. Dylan Bressy and myself. So we'll move on. We have no correspondence and we have no other business other than 5.1, which is the TRC calls to action. And who wants to speak on that? Okay, Mr. Bressy, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chair O'Toole. I asked to have this added to the agenda, and I'm going to make a motion just for the sake of getting conversation going, but very open to friendly amendments or even withdrawing the motion completely if somebody has a better course of action, but I'll make it to get the conversation going. And I would move that committee direct administration to report back to committee with a list of the calls to action most relevant to municipalities, along with if or how the city or council have addressed each of these most relevant actions. And just to speak to this, I've heard every member of council talk at least a little bit on moving forward with truth and reconciliation. And this is something that our council, along with the county council, very early in the term met to do a blanket exercise, which I think is along the lines of truth and reconciliation. And we've all got different ideas for what we could do, but I would suggest that we should start by looking at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report and hearing from lived voices and lived experts and saying what they think government should do to further truth and reconciliation. So it is quite a lengthy report with a number of actions, and some are very relevant to municipalities, some are not, but I think a good starting place as we talk about what actions next would be to look at this report and how have we move forward with it or not. So I think this would give us good information to start having conversations about how do we move forward in the future.
All right. Anybody want to speak on that potential motion? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman O'Toole. Yeah, I'll speak to the motion. I really appreciate that Councillor Bressy has brought this forward. This is something that I strongly believe in, and I think, as I think our duty as Canadians and colonizers, I guess, as our ancestors were, to pay it back, because we definitely took advantage of the land and the great space that is Canada. Just speaking to this, I know during the election we had lots of conversations about it, and I already had drawn up a list. Now, I'm not saying that administration has to keep this on this list, but just just maybe something to look for on those 94 calls to action. Language and culture is really big in our community, and even implementing Jordan's principle, which is typically just used for a federal or provincial purposes, but I think the city has a role that we can play in here to offer health services or recreation services to our status First Nations people, as well as the creation of healing centers and FSAD programming, and working with our libraries and the archives. These are all things that we already do to recognize Indigenous culture, heritage, history, and the impacts of residential schools. Oh, and we also have an Indigenous liaison worker coming forward to our budget discussions here in a week as well. So there's lots that the city can do. Hopefully our administration is jotting down some of those ideas. And again, I'd just like to thank Councillor Bressie for bringing this forward, because I think if we all put our hands in together, we can help to erase sort of the memories of the past a bit easier. Thank you.
Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair O'Toole. Thanks for bringing forward this motion, Councillor Bressie. I think it's good. It will be good information when it comes back. The intent is not that this comes back with recommendations, that it's simply an information piece. My question is for Director Manuel. Based on the current capacity of your department, is this a report that you find that you feel could be done in a timely manner?
Through the chair. I do. I believe we have folks working on this particular portfolio, and it's not something they're unfamiliar with. So I think we should be able to pull this together in early new year.
Great, thank you.
That's good news. Yep. So there is a motion on the floor. I see no one else has any questions to ask. So with that, I call the motion. Call the vote. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We have no bylaw or policy review today. We have an outstanding items list, and we can go to that.
Councillor O'Toole, can I just ask that you have the director update on the outstanding items list? Thanks.
Yep. So go ahead.
Yep. So in regard to the first item on the list there, which is the crime mitigation piece, there's going to be a report coming forward at the next committee meeting in regard to a project regarding that. So that remains on track, and I actually anticipate that the second item, which is the collision reporting center, will be brought forward ahead of the date on the outstanding item list at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions, Director? None? Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Call for the vote. And that carries unanimously. So our next item is an in-camera meeting, and go ahead.
I was just going to move that we go in camera.
Okay, so that means anybody that doesn't need to be in here, I'll ask them to leave. That's you.